Parker Finn, the director of Smile and Smile 2, the creator of the Smile franchise, released his 10 favorite films of the 2000s in an IndieWire article. Let me hit you with these, Cody. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Catch Me If You Can.
Yep.
Decent movie.
Bingo.
Children of Men.
Respect. Classic.
Zodiac.
Eh,
There Will Be Blood.
yep. Pretty solid.
Requiem for a Dream.
Yep. Pretty good. Pretty
This
good.
guy's speaking my language, right? Cody, this is like, what are we talking here? And then you ready for this one? The Ring. Gore Verbinski.
I lost all respect for him right there.
That's all the ones that you and I have seen, and then he had four more. Rachel Getting Married, which is a Jonathan Demme film, director of Silence of the Lambs. Into the Void, Gaspar Noé. 24-Hour People by Michael Winterbottom, and A Tale of Two Sisters by Kim Ji Woon, which to me, I guess, is maybe just four movies we need to check out because the other, six on that list, kind of certified bangers, all of them.
He does have good taste. I mean, the first five you mentioned there, I'm all big fans of. So respect to Parker Finn. I think he is a good filmmaker, and probably a lot of good filmmakers like good movies. So I feel like that correlates pretty well.
It is interesting because they like release this article of the directors and actors say their best movies of the 2000s, and I just control F. I was like, who put Catch Me If You Can on the list? And he was the only one. And then when I read the rest of his list, I was like, damn, I kind of I see the vision here. But unfortunately, the two Smile movies have not quite resonated with me in the same way that his list of favorite films has.
Yeah, true. I don't think they're like modern classics, like Catch Me If You Can and some of those other flicks.
Hmm.
But I actually do really enjoy the first one a lot. I think I may be like a massive defender of the first Smile. Um, so shout out to that. Parker Finn,
As
obviously.
of 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, very true. So,
I've been riding for it for days.
I've been here for since the beginning, man. Come on. But I mean, a really young director here too. His first two, big time features here. So I'm excited to see where he goes, especially with kind of that favorites list, because definitely like mix and max of like some decent genres. And if he's got good taste, I mean, you would think he can make good movies. So that does excite me.
And you know what project was recently announced that Parker Finn would be working on next? And I know you're gonna love this,
I don't
Cody.
actually, but I'm
he's
excited.
he's teaming with Robert Pattinson to remake Possession, your favorite movie.
Wow, okay. I would have not guessed that in a million years, but
But again, this is me core, this guy.
true. I mean,
You
that's
hate
probably gonna
Possession,
be your
obviously.
favorite movie coming up. So you're probably pumped for that. But is Alan from Jurassic Park returning, or that's the big question, I
We
think.
do need a Sam Neill legacy character appearance. I got to get him working before that dude dies.
If he shows up, I'll see it in theaters. But if not, might pass on that one. But
I don't think
yeah,
he's
that
doing
movie's
anything
crazy.
else. So
If you haven't seen Possession, probably don't see it. But that movie's insane. I still don't even know what to think about it, and I saw it like a year ago. So still turning the wheels, but nothing's really going on in there, I don't think.
so you like Smile, but Smile 2, this new movie that's out in theaters now, I think we both didn't love.
Mhm.
Now, I actually enjoyed it more than the original Smile, but
Oh
I
wow.
still think it's not my favorite. I find a lot of the problems that I had with the original Smile are the same ones that I have with this. It's a very trauma core like horror movie, and I just kind of hate that, especially like modern take on horror where it's like every main character has to have some past incident that is affecting them and haunting them, and it's prevalent in the first movie, and then here you with the lead singer character, you have this like car accident that killed her boyfriend that seemingly haunted her, and I just hate that. I feel it's so derivative, it's so tired at this point, especially we've seen so much of it, and then that kind of gets into the general problems I have with Smile. That is kind of it is just a play on the ring. It is just a play on this
Yeah.
cursed thing that we've seen so many times, even down to like you're taking the nepo baby Jack Torrance reincarnated and having him do his dad's famous smile in this movie as this own derivative horror thing, calling back to The Shining and Jack Nicholson. I don't know. It's almost Tarantino esque, but like in a derogatory way, where it's like yes, you've seen a lot of movies, but you're just putting that on screen.
I agree too. I think the Nicholson son casting is like what else are you trying to do other than just like remind people of Jack Nicholson with
Right.
his face? So I think that's a bit weird. And also too, like you said, the trauma dumping. I agree in general. It's definitely not like a horror movie trope that I really enjoy. And I feel like for this one too, like that was kind of they upped the ante of the trauma. Like this girl has been through a lot. Um, I mean, overall plot too. I mean, she's like a pop star,
Mhm.
which I don't really know why that's like a good thing of like why that's trending this year.
Dallas
Shout
Trap.
out, yeah, shout out to Trap as well. I think this movie does use it a little bit better, specifically in the third act, I would
Better
say.
music too.
Ooh, shots fired at Shyamalan. But, I do think it's interesting, just like the trauma dumping aspect of it. I think for this one, and I wanted to ask you this too, because I don't remember all the details of the first one, but I feel like the trauma is stronger in this one. So in theory, like the more trauma a person has, does that mean the smile monster or the demon or whatever is like stronger? Because I mean, not to go into crazy spoilers, but the smile demon, I guess we can call it, is massively stronger in this movie, I would say. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, again, the thing, there's no rules. Like seemingly anything can happen in these movies, and something that I hate in comparison to Ring is like Ring is, hey, you have 7 days and you're gonna die. In the Smile universe, it's like between 4 and 7, somewhere in there, it's gonna get to you. But part of the reasoning is they say that it's like however long it takes for it to like wear you down enough and exploit your trauma. So I guess on one hand, you could say if you have more trauma to haunt you, then it's gonna be quicker of a kill, but then
Right.
also at the same time, it's like maybe if you've been through more shit, you can withstand the horror for a day longer. I don't know. Obviously, for the movie's sake, it needs it to to be extended out for as many days as possible before it eventually gets the subject. But yeah, the trauma in the first movie, I mean, obviously, it's also the curse is built in trauma. You're experiencing someone killing themselves in front of you to then
Hmm.
be infected, or at least someone is killed, whether it's a murder or suicide. So like there's that aspect of it as well, where it's like you're gonna always be traumatized by the actual, event of the curse.
Yeah. And I think that's why, like, in theory, this would work as a franchise. Just because
Right.
you get the interesting kills at the beginning and the end. You know kind of what's gonna happen. But I
Mm-hmm.
still think like visually and even story-wise, that is pretty cool to introduce a new character by having somebody else, kill themselves in front of them, while having this really creepy smile. I think aesthetically that is super cool. But it's kind of just everything in between for this movie that I really didn't enjoy that much. Shout out to, is it no Naomi? No, that's the wrong movie.
Well, that's hey, double Naomi movies today, Cody. We're coming in hot.
Are they both
Naomi
Naomi's?
Watts is the star of The Ring, but of course, the star of Smile
Naomi
2
Harris?
is Naomi Scott.
Naomi Scott. Oh man, I don't even who's Naomi Harris. Who knows?
Naomi Harris is an actress as well, I believe.
I thought she was in the ring. Shout out Naomi Scott though. I do think she's really, really good. With these Smile movies, it really is kind of like on one person's back. And obviously, I don't think she's been in a ton of like acclaimed stuff that I've seen at least. But this is her movie, and I think she is really, really good. There's so many just like physical kind of horror just surrounding her character and her reactions to it that I thought, I mean, she was lights out the entire movie, I really thought. But it's kind of just like the plot around her where I get a bit lost. I don't know about you, but like when I was walking out of the theater, I was just trying to piece together like what could I actually take from this movie in like the second and third act that like actually happened. And I genuinely
Exactly.
can't think of anything really that is like concrete of like this person was there. So it kind of just muddies the movie and it kind of just goes from like that opening scene to the closing scene for me of like that's really the only connections I can put together here, which kind of is just disappointing from a story aspect.
I agree 100%. That's my main problem of there's this Morris character. He's the guy. He's from House, the actor from House,
Shout out.
who's essentially trying to help her break the curse and is giving her all this information. It's like, does he matter? Is he real? Is anything, like you said, anything that happens in the second or third act could have just been in her head or been a affliction of the smile demon, and it just kind of makes it feels unfair to the audience to a certain extent when it's like the director can do whatever he wants and back himself out of every corner. Real ones will remember Naomi Scott from the hit decom original Lemonade Mouth, Cody.
Apologies to all the Lemonade Mouth stands. That was a big hit back in the day, I recall. But yeah, I'm not a big fan,
She's
unfortunately.
been in some IP. I mean, she's in the Power Rangers movie. She was the Pink Ranger.
Yeah, shout
She's
out to
also
that
in
too.
Aladdin. She plays Jasmine, the
Yeah,
live
that was
action
the big thing. I
Aladdin.
forgot. I never saw that. Shout out Will Smith too.
She can sing.
It's these. I should check it out. I feel like all the Disney live action stuff, I was just like, not really
That
interested
movie
in.
made a lot of money. I
Yeah.
would say it's over $1 billion. It might be over $1.5 billion. It's really insane how much money that
Well, I
movie.
should check it out because she's really, really good in this. So shout out to her. And I mean, the thing too is, of course, we're going to compare it to the OG. The reason I think that I like the first Smile a lot more is just because like the main character it's centered around is like this psychiatrist doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So she can play the mind games, which is all this kind of Smile demon is doing, I feel like. So that makes it a lot more interesting because she actually kind of figures out, what she needs to do, what's the history with all this stuff. This one is kind of just like let's run around for a couple hours and hope something works, but not really have any sort of concrete plan. Unless, like you said, we're going to talk to this house guy who may or may not even exist in general. So kind of just disappointing there. And yeah, I mean the third act, like sequel wise, obviously they're like it's the classic sequel of go big or go home. I would say like you have to go double what you did in the first one. So I do think where we ended up makes a lot of sense, and I think if you do like this movie, like the third act is probably specifically why the last scene I think is pretty good. But other than that too, I wanted to talk about product placement in
Yeah,
this because I thought that
big
was
Voss Water movie.
yeah. Shout out Grown Ups, which also has some boss product placement. I think Grown Ups uses it better, but man, she chugs
she
Voss at least
she
like
she
10
is
times in
chugging.
this movie. Were you thirsty more or less after watching this movie, Corbin?
I'll admit I finished my whole soda, man. It was gone by the end of the film, and I think it might have been some subliminal messaging of
Yeah.
drink. She's chugging that thing, dude. It's insane. That might be the most important. The singing is good, but her ability to just chug Voss water on screen, like how many takes did she do? You could die.
Hydration is key against this bile monster, I guess, but it didn't work that well.
It
I
didn't.
guess the next one they should try a different liquid to chug, I think.
This movie, like if you like the first one, you probably will enjoy this one. Like I had a good time seeing it. It is
Yeah.
gorier. It does have more jump scares. It is very jump scare heavy. That's the kind of horror it is, rather than something atmospheric that we're going to talk about today. Last note I wanted to bring up, which I thought was interesting. Drew Barrymore makes a cameo in this movie, which I think is obviously we're both big Scream fans. That's kind of a fun callback to the OG, horror tradition. And Drew Barrymore not really acting anymore much these days, so she's appearing as herself on her talk show in this movie.
I do like that. Like you said, kind of a Scream shout out. It is also like very early on in the movie when she appears.
Yeah, I mean it's right after the opening kill sequence that
Yeah.
we get Drew Barrymore.
So
So
kind of another cool homage to Scream, obviously her being the opening iconic scene in that one. But yeah, even when I was like going back through like the letterbox, like the cast and stuff, I was like, wait, why is Drew Barrymore there? I was like, oh yeah, she's playing herself in an
yeah,
interview. So I think it's fun, but maybe give her like a little bit extra screen time, just randomly, kind of, the third act or something, and that'd been really awesome. But it was cool to see her for sure.
well, Cody, obviously we're talking today about a film that heavily inspired the Smile franchise. Hello and welcome back to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about 2002's The Ring.
Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it? You start to play it, and it's like somebody's nightmare. And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And what they say is, you will die in 7 days.
Katie told you she was gonna die.
She told me. She said she didn't have enough time.
Would you say that I'm gullible?
No,
Easily rattled?
you're a little highly strung, maybe.
I watched the tape.
Seven days.
I'm not gonna get all worked up over some rumor. Oh, show it to me.
Miss Keller, I'm bothered by these drawings. Why did you draw that house?
She told me to.
Who? Who told you to?
She shows me things.
Before you die, you see the ring. The images on the tape, they're leading us somewhere. Did she show you the horses?
Don't you understand, Rachel?
Tell me, miss, what is it you think you know?
Hello? Before you die, you see the ring. When you see the ring,
Everyone will suffer.
you see the ring. You see the ring.
As always, I'm your host, Korbin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kody Webb. Kody, hopefully you're not going to be crawling through the screen. And I mean, I would love for you to be here, but I'm a little worried about kind of having this conversation over Zoom. How you doing today?
Doing great, man. We're back in some spooky cat episodes, which are some of my favorites. But I did watch the video, so I don't know. It could work both ways. You know, we could jump into the screen, something may come out. So I'm on edge for sure. I'm ready for anything.
I watched this movie, and of course, it obviously contains video, but I pulled the video up on YouTube right before we recorded this and gave it another watch down just to be sure we had the right energy going in.
Oh, wow. You're just asking for it, man. I mean, come on. What are we doing?
I need to look into if you're able to just log the tape from the ring on Letterboxd. I might have to go back and add a couple entries. Why, Kody? Why did I pick this movie?
Yeah.
Out of everybody you could have chose, why did you pick me?
Obviously, it is now November, but we had a wonderful spooky Cage-tober that we both participated in. And this movie was on your Cage-tober list because one of the criteria was American remakes of horror films. So I saw you picked it, and then I was like, I really enjoy this movie. I want to talk about it. And it fits very coincidentally with Smile 2, of course. This film, you know, influences Smile and influences stuff like It Follows, which was a movie on my Cage-tober list. So very topical. Why did you put it on your Cage-tober list?
It's a good question. I mean, like you said, I think it was your subcategory had to include some American remakes. And, you know, I couldn't put The Departed in, unfortunately. That's my favorite. But there was kind of just not a ton of great options, I didn't think. And this, like you said, I feel like it's a pretty well-known, horror classic to some people. So I wanted to throw it in and kind of check it out. I've seen like bits and pieces over the years, but it's kind of one where it's just been in the cultural zeitgeist for forever. And that was kind of my big thing for Cage-tober, was just checking out a bunch of the obvious stuff that I kind of hadn't seen over
what
the
did
years.
you not seen? Yeah,
exactly.
I'm also trying to do movies that I own as kind of of what we're going to be covering on the podcast coming up. So I got the 4K copy of The Ring, so you know, had to break it out for this episode.
So flex, I see you. That's dope.
And then I hooked you up with a code so you can watch this movie as well.
That is true. Shout out to you for that. Honestly, yeah, big ups. Speaking
of which, do you remember, Kody? Talk to me about that. The first watch. What was it like?
So it's a good time. A kind of weird thing too, because it's a good thing you sent that code because it's not really streaming anywhere.
Really?
In October here, which I was like, that's kind of interesting and kind of just sad for the month as a whole. So again, shout out to you there.
Well, Kody, it's on Pluto TV. You didn't pull up your Pluto
I think I tried
TV.
to download. I think I did download it and then it wasn't on there. So mine has been my TV's problem. But Pluto TV, you got to figure out your stuff, man, because it's not there. But for me, like I said, this is the first viewing altogether. But I mean, like I said, cultural zeitgeist. I've definitely seen like maybe the scene at the end where, you know, the girl crawls out of the TV a couple times. And then like, you know, bits and flashes of kind of the overall video. I think I've seen a little bit of that too.
Yeah. So
the first time all the way through, and I want to mention off the top too, I mean, we have talked about The Office here in the past. And there's a specific episode in The Office in the later seasons too, which is not the good season. But it's when Robert California is there and Gabe has this really weird video that he shows everybody and it freaks everybody out, which is an obvious homage to this flick. So I saw that before the actual video. So I think it ruined it a little bit for me just from that perspective. Yeah, do you remember the first time you watched this?
I had to pull up Letterbox to double check, and it was
Nice.
June 6th, 2021. So
Oh,
a
nice.
couple years ago now, but I've only seen it that one time, and then this was my second viewing a couple days ago. It just really stuck with me. It was very early. I hadn't seen a lot of horror movies, so it was kind of cool to kind of go back and revisit it in the context of that. And then, of course, there's just like an energy and an air to it, and like you said, it's in the cultural zeitgeist. The popularity, the ring girl, is just kind of everywhere. I remember seeing these like Best Buy like TV commercials growing up where they would just use the ring girl to advertise it and do like pranks on people and shit. So it's just like I enjoyed it instantly, and then really wanted to revisit. And since you were talking about, since you were watching it, I figured it'd be a great time to talk about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like you're right there too. Like just like the ring girl like cosplay and stuff or costume
Yeah.
for Halloween is so popular. Like you see that everywhere as well. Just that imagery of kind of her with the long hair and soaking wet is very, very memorable, even for somebody for me who hadn't seen it. So I think culturally this is a fun one to cover just because I feel like most people have seen this, which is awesome.
Let's get into our initial thoughts, Cody. What did you think of it?
You know, I'm too damn bad if you don't like my initial clinical reaction.
Again, first viewing for me, I feel like first viewings are sometimes tough to make an overall opinion,
Mhm.
but I think I am definitely a little bit lower than you on this altogether. I think the premise is solid for sure. Just the video being unbelievably creepy. I don't think you can really deny that. And then, of course, the consequences of watching the video are very strong. Uh, Also, a really creepy call where like, oh, you will die in
7 days.
7 days. Like, oh, that's kind of tough. And then you do end up dying 7 days later. So
Facts.
yeah, fun premise. And I think even where we end up with which one? Naomi Scott, is that the right one?
Watts.
Naomi Watts. I apologize, Miss Watts. I do think she's pretty solid in this. But when she kind of enters and watches it, I do think like I am interested and kind of worried about her character. So I think they do a good job there. But other than that, I do think it kind of just drags for a while. Like I think the first act is interesting, and then when we end up where we end up, I think it's interesting as well. But it is a very slow burn to kind of figure out the history and kind of just get everything lined up to where we're going to be in the third act. So that would be my kind of biggest thing off the bat of just like it's kind of boring to me for the majority of the movie, which sucks.
This movie is rated PG-13, and I think that's like a very important
Yeah.
note. Both because of it means so many more people, like so many teens, are able to watch this movie in the 2000s, and it became a very huge like piece of culture, especially like millennial culture, and people watched it growing up. And that's why it's infected so many of the things that we've now watched and seen on TV. But because of that, it is kind of toned down for a lot of it, and I think it tries to use like the world building and the lore to scare you, and it gets a little lost in the sauce. I agree. In the second and third acts and some of that stuff, I wouldn't personally call it boring, but like I can see why it kind of slows down and can lose interest to somebody.
Yeah. And I think like the scariness of the video, it is just like it's different from the scariness of like the overall story. Like the story is interesting. And obviously they're just trying to figure out, like what happened to this ring girl? Why is this kind of a thing now? And when they uncover all that stuff, it is like it's just like more sad and kind of like it should anger you that, the people made these decisions, I guess. Shout out Brian Cox, we'll talk about I'm sure a lot, but I think if it just stuck on the creepiness of the video and kind of relied on that little bit more, I would like this a ton. Also, in my opinion too, I mean, this is a big horror movie thing in general, but I think these characters do kind of make some stupid decisions altogether. And the big thing is like Miss Naomi Watts here. I mean, she just like starts showing this video to everybody, uh, even though like
Hey, it kind of works out for her though.
yeah, true. I mean, spoiler alert, obviously works out for her. But I don't know. After you like uncover like, oh, these two kids both died exactly a week after watching this video, she just throws it on and says, hey, I don't really believe in it. So maybe not the smartest thing. It does set up down a clicking talk. Oh fuck. A clicking it does set up a ticking clock, a little dyslexia there. It does set up a clicking talk, which is good for the plot, I think.
You said it wrong.
Say it.
You said it right.
One more. Brutal. It does set up a ticking clock, which is good for the story. But yeah, character decision wise, I don't think it makes much sense. So shout out to her off the bat. She also shows it to her boyfriend. The kid gets a hold of it as well, which I'll talk about later. But
Child safety is not a number one priority for her.
not on the top of her list, but yeah, she makes it out, I guess. So shout out to her. But yeah, kind of just dumb decisions throughout, which we'll get into more.
I do think it's just like a great exercise in creating a very particular sense of tone, a particular sense of style. Verbinski hasn't like directed a bunch of horror movies after this, but like it reminds me of like what Mike Flanagan has done in the 2010s of just like instantly right off the bat, his movies aren't necessarily gory or rated R, but they create atmosphere. And that is really what this movie kind of brought into the 2000s and the 2010s and the 21st century of like the atmospheric horror stuff that kind of led the way for Conjuring to be popular. It's post slasher, right? Like that from the 70s to the late 90s, that was like a huge predominant horror form, and this kind of brings in a new age post Scream. And then it's also a little bit of, you know, pre-Saw torture porn kind of stuff. It exists in like what modern PG-13 horror is this movie. And also just like, to me, there's indelible stuff that sticks with you, like the horses jumping off the side of the boat. Like that's just something that is so creepy to me for whatever reason, like horse suicide. And every time I think about this movie, I think about that stuff. So I think, yes, it can be boring and it can be slow and it gets lost in its lore. But to me, it's a really incredible work of filmmaking and in tone and eeriness.
I think that was a great point too. It is definitely like a different genre of horror from like the slashers that were super popular beforehand. So I do love that a lot of kind of it just going more for a creepy aura than anything else. And definitely when we get to the good, I'll talk about just like there are a ton of like creepy visuals, like you said, that definitely stick with you. One of them I was going to talk about is like just the blood in the waves after the horse kind of jumps in. So then obviously everything with the video is super creepy too. So I do agree. I kind of wish maybe it was rated R and it got a little bit crazier uh, throughout, but I do agree. I think for what they were going for, it is kind of a newer or kind of just, a visual style that a lot of people have kind of, copycatted down the road.
Yeah.
And I'm curious too, have you seen the international original here?
I have not seen the original version, unfortunately.
Because I feel like, remakes in general, I do like international remakes just because obviously the first one usually isn't as excessive.
We can jump over to roll credits here, Cody. I think it's a perfect segue.
Say that again.
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Guys, I got it.
This is an American remake. We mentioned off the top of the Japanese horror Ringu.
Yeah. And I do want to check that out flick too, just kind of see comparisons wise. If it's obviously I would assume like the Ring Girl, like those story comparisons are very similar, but I would want to see kind of like the little details in between are kind of the same. So something to add to the watch list for sure. But overall, I think for roll credits here, like I think the cast is solid too. I guess we can start off there.
Mm.
The main girl Naomi here, I think is pretty awesome. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the secondary guy. It's like Martin Henderson or something like that.
Yeah, that's his name.
I swear he looks like the guy from Scrubs. No, what's Chicken Little's name? Zach Braff.
Looks like Zach Braff.
Does he not look like Zach Braff? I feel like they're long lost brothers.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know about that.
And just because he looks like him, I think I just don't like him a little bit more as well. So I wasn't a big fan of him, but small cast, which I like, and it really does go on Naomi's shoulders here. So shout out to her. And also Brian Cox is involved too, which again, I love that guy. So I think cast wise, this is strong for me. I don't know. We can go any direction. Also, too, I mean, they don't really say the ring, do they? Am I mistaken?
Well, they say rings, as in the cell phone rings, but the word "the ring" is
that's cheating.
Said. A couple things I wanted to talk about. Look, we can hit the Gore Verbinski train.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is the movie he makes directly before Pirates of the Caribbean, and then obviously he goes on to make 3 of those movies, become a big Johnny Depp collaborator. Rango hit film, but he's not made a movie since 2016. Are you a Gore Verbinski guy at all?
I'm not at all. I think this is actually the first movie I may have seen from him as well. I haven't seen any of the OG Pirates movies, which
Oh,
is kind of
really?
crazy. Yeah. I think he did The Lone Ranger as well,
Yeah, he
which
did The
is
Lone Ranger, which notoriously great movie.
so he's got some hits, he's got some misses. I don't know much about the Pirates movies, but I believe as they kind of go along, they get a little bit worse. But yeah, I mean, great name too. If your name's Gore, like do more horror stuff, I would say. Maybe stay away from death and or if you are going to stay with death, I mean, go horror because you can do that too. So kind of interesting choice with his name. But are you a big Gore fan?
I'm not a huge Gore stan, but I do appreciate he has a very interesting lane of filmmaking and style. And I think that first Pirates movie, again, is like kind of a horror movie to a certain degree. Like there's some really creepy elements and like some of the like CGI stuff that he manages to do in that movie. I think there's early tastes of it here. So he's a pretty talented director, I would say. But the Johnny Depp connection is definitely sullied him and stuff like the Lone Ranger.
It
Like,
usually does, unfortunately. Yeah. Unfortunately with the Depp man. But another cool thing too is I want to talk about just like the opening and the closing a little bit. I think the opening, it like really reminds me of Scream, low key. Obviously just like these two girls hanging
two
out.
teenage girls, yeah.
Yeah, talking about like scary movies and scary videos and stuff. So I thought those vibes at the beginning were really cool. I feel like we don't get anything else really like that throughout the entire movie, which kind of stinks. But I like the opening. And then just kind of fast forwarding to the end too. I guess a little bit spoiler alert, but I think that's this entire episode, so not a big deal. But like at the very end, it's kind of implying like well, the video kind of goes and it like shuts off in that static. So it's kind of implying like, oh, you watched the video, now you're in trouble. I really like that. I feel like if a movie does give you like vibes where you actually kind of feel scared or in some sort of danger, I think that's a really cool, just like aesthetic thing to do at the end. So I think that ending was really effective. And then I do like the beginning a lot. So kind of similar, I guess, to Smile too in our mini review here, but kind of the in between, maybe it loses me a little bit, which we'll talk about. But really strong start. And I mean, kind of freaked me out at the beginning too. I wish maybe they showed a little bit more of kind of what exactly happened, at that exact weak point. But still effective and got me hooked at the beginning for sure, I would say.
It is obviously like very much about the idea of technology and this changing at the turn of the century and the videotapes and looking at screens and kids and technology. Like there's a ton there. We'll get into it in a second more. But then, like you said, it's also cool because there's like that fourth wall breaking at the end of like this shit is real and now you're gonna die, like you said. I don't know. I really like a lot of that stuff about it. Great creepy DreamWorks logo to start the movie. I love an eerie eerie logo, and this one gives us a teal tinted DreamWorks, baby.
Shout out. Yeah, probably the scariest DreamWorks logo I've ever seen, honestly. So shout out to him. But
I feel like the DreamWorks logo isn't one to really vary a lot. You might get the Universal logo becomes a Fast and Furious wheel or whatever. But hey, the Ring pulling in the big stops for creepy logos.
I mean, yeah, I can't even name anything off the top of my head like DreamWorks horror wise, really. So
well, I mean, there's obviously that because DreamWorks essentially doesn't exist as a company that makes movies other than animation anymore. But like, I guess Poltergeist is pre the existence of DreamWorks, but it would have been had they made it. Shout out to Steve.
True.
They also use the countdown title, something, you mentioned the pacing, but like, I think this movie does move relatively quick. It's got the 7-day countdown.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it's letting every day one, day two, like you are waiting for something to happen, whereas in Smile, it's kind of just like, who knows when this was going to finally get her.
Yeah, I agree too. I think the title drops of the days is a good way to go about it. Because the first couple of days too, they do fly through pretty quickly. It's pretty much like day 6 and day 7 that is the majority of the movie, which that's where kind of the tension is the highest. So when those kind of eventually end up on the screen of day 6, day 7, you're like, oh man, like we're in a lot of trouble. So I do like that aspect of it too.
Quick piece of trivia for you. I don't really know where it fits, so we're gonna roll credits here. The Ring. Obviously, the Scary Movie franchise is known for parodying different, scary movies and other films. Which Scary Movie parodies The Ring? Do you know which number?
Ooh, interesting. I think I've seen the first Scary Movie, so it's not. I don't think it's the first one. I'll say. I'll say. I mean, this is pretty big culturally. So I'll say they tackled it in the sequel. Is it Scary Movie 2?
Scary Movie 3,
Uh,
unfortunately,
they went
which
for the
came out in
trilogy.
2003. So, I mean, it really
Gotcha.
is just a purely a timing thing. Scary Movie 2 was released in 2001 before this movie
Dang
came
it,
out.
they were
So,
pumping out scary movies. Yeah, because the first one I remember was late 90s. So shout out to them. Yeah. The first one was a reaction to Scream. The third one was a reaction to The Ring. So yeah, shout out to them. They are quick with the scary movies.
I don't know if you saw the news, but they're coming back. Scary Movie 6 is happening.
Ooh.
Wayne's Brothers returning.
I don't know who's asking for it, but I probably won't say it.
I hope they get Melissa Barrera in it. That's the only thing that I hope happens.
You love Melissa Barrera.
Well, I just think what happened to her is actually
Yeah, I mean she got screwed, but
tragic.
I don't think
Yeah.
she's a very good actress. So
Well, to each their own. You can use the timing here. So, like I said, it came out in 2003. What are the other films that Scary Movie 3 parodies?
ooh, okay. This is good trivia. So very early 2000s horror.
Two of them are not horror movies. One of them is like horror adjacent.
Like Titanic. I'm trying to think of The Matrix, maybe early 2000s.
Okay, I'll give you. You
Gladiator.
said The Matrix. It's The Matrix Reloaded is one of them.
Oh, okay. What a guess for me. Heck yeah. What else is big franchise in
The other one is
Lord of the Rings?
the other one is an original film featuring a musical artist.
Musical artist. Ray. I
Set
have
in
no idea.
Michigan.
I'm lost in the sauce.
It's
right
also
now.
it stars the Falcon Anthony Mackie in a supporting role.
Oh, the Eminem movie, whatever it's
Yeah.
8 Mile.
8 Mile.
That came out. When did that come out? Like 03? 02? I thought that came out later.
2002. So I mean,
Wow.
these are 2002 films. You got Matrix
Nice.
Reloaded.
I thought 8 Mile was like 05 for some reason. Huh.
All right, last one. It's we've talked about the director already on the podcast today.
The director of Scary Movie 3.
No, the other movie it's parodying. We've mentioned this director.
So what is it pairing? It's pairing The Ring, The Matrix Reloaded, and 8 Mile.
And what?
And a director we've talked about.
The 2002 film. It was, I think it's technically like their third or fourth film, but it's their second like major film. And it stars a guy who we wouldn't want to hang out with.
Army Hammer.
Who has some problematic opinions. Stars Mel Gibson.
Oh, Signs. Shyamalan. Yeah, there you go.
There you
That's
go.
a good one to parody too, actually. That's a fun one because you can do a lot of stuff with kind of the cornfields and the baseball stuff. So yeah, fair enough. I honestly like the very early 2000s is kind of a blind spot for me. So appreciate the hints there, but I'm happy with that Matrix poll. That was pretty insane.
I'll roll the clip of the TVs leaking.
Cindy! Oh, forget it. I am not falling for it again.
Oh, come on. Cindy, the news is on. Another little white girl done fell down the well. 50 black people get their ass beat by police today, but the whole world gotta stop for one little whitey down the hole. Cindy? The TV's leaking. Cindy? Cindy, something's wrong here. Cindy, this bitch is messing up my floor. Cindy? ugly bitch. Come on. Let me see what you got. What you going to? That's all. Ooh. Ooh. I'm whipping her ass, Cindy. Yeah. What's up? Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
The Rain Girl from Scary Movie 3. I haven't seen it, but I did watch
I haven't
that
either. I'm excited to see it though.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, Cody. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the good stuff. I'm going to jump in right here before you can even say anything. I know this is going to be in your bad because you've bragged many a movie on KHAP for this very thing, but I love a movie with a tent. Give me a green movie. Give me a blue movie. Okay. Give me a red movie. I don't love it when it's like, oh, hey, now we're in Mexico and my movie's yellow. Like, we're not going there. Like, hey, racist tents are not good. Yeah. But when it's like, this shit's scary and it's going to be blue now. This shit's in a computer and it's going to be green. Shout out to the Matrix. Like, I love it. And also, this movie, I think in general looks very good. I think it's shot very well. The setting in the Pacific Northwest is very interesting. We'll talk more about that in a second. But I think it just fits the vibe so well. And they did all of it in camera too. It's not some like post filter that they slapped on. They were really throwing stuff over the lens, getting dirty with it.
I respect it. I think for this movie, it does work too. I think it is really just situational. I mean, the two most obvious examples for me is like Mad Max Fury Road, where it uses it really well, but also then like Joss Whedon's Justice League with that red tint. It's just horrendous. So it's definitely just how you use it. I do like this kind of use for sure. I'd like you said, kind of the bluish green tint throughout. And that was the first thing I wanted to touch on too with my good was just the overall kind of weather aesthetic of it always being kind of raining and super wet. And like I said, that definitely goes along with the Pacific Northwest. I believe the majority of this movie takes place in Oregon, right? I think that's right.
Yeah, it's like Oregon, Washington.
Yeah, it really reminds me of like
Twilight
Seattle.
vibes.
Like this feels like a Seattle movie to me. Just it's always raining, kind of similar to like a Zodiac kind of style as well, which I think is a cool kind of comparison. But yeah, I agree. Kind of like everything visual and especially just like setting wise, that does kind of add to that creepy aesthetic and something I do really like. So I definitely back that.
Yeah, and that constant rain, like obviously there's the parallels of like the staticky noise of the TV when it's like, you get that. It's like throughout the entire movie, kind of creating the sound design that's constantly there and calling back to that. This movie was supposed to be set in New York City, but then 9/11 happened and the production, this was shot in 2001. They had to move literally across the country and kind of switch it up. So it was kind of almost just by happenstance that it worked out that way.
That's crazy. I mean, I feel like just the setting of the apartments, like you could say those were in New York City. So they probably didn't have to change the sets too much. But I think I do prefer it in where we got it. Just with, like I said, I don't know if you could do as deep of a tint or as rainy in New York. I'm sure you could, but I think it works better for this setting for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a blessing, and obviously I don't know what it is, but all of these horror movies that we keep talking about have this like post 9/11 energy to them, and I don't want to keep harping on it too much, but I do have a quote here from Gore that I think is interesting. There's a random element to the film, a loss of control and disruption of balance that makes it work, he said. There's no moral explanation or sense of one person deserving it over another. It's scary when a belief system collapses. It leaves you in this existential free fall. The film is obviously not a direct result of 9/11, but it makes palpable a similar crisis, he added, that whatever meaning you create from the videotape, whatever progress or discovery you think you're making, none of that will make you whole. So I think it's interesting. They've like this movie, obviously it's based on a movie released 3 years earlier, a Japanese horror film, but like they're making this in the aftermath of this huge totemic event. And it clearly has infected the movie.
And kind of like we talked with Cloverfield too. I mean, some similarities there, but any sort of movie in the early 2000s, I think is going to be impacted by that, especially in American cinema. So definitely agree that this has something to say about that. That's a great point too, of like, that does make it even scarier, in my opinion. Just the fact of like, it doesn't matter who you are, like what your story is, what you've done. If you watch this video, it's going to have the same kind of consequences as everybody else. So I think just from a scary perspective, that adds a little bit too, which is fun.
Yeah, and how do you react to that when you're kind of put in that situation?
Yeah.
And kind of seeing the Naomi Watts character grip with it. Some more just like context. So like I said, Ringu's released in 1998. I think something that's also very interesting is the DVD is released in 1996 in Japan. So like this is almost a response of like, hey, this is old technology that's beginning to slowly be phased out. Then in America, you have the iPad or the iPod released in 2001. This movie is very much about this idea of being trapped in a screen and being drawn in by technology. And look at the next 20 years and what's happened to us in the way phones and everything else has infected our lives.
That's another thing I didn't think about too much either, which is fun. But I mean, technology boom is pretty much around this time, and yeah, that kind of parallels of after you watch a video, oh, you're gonna be sucked,
right? And there's like the early email, like the chain letter type horror that's going around, and
yeah.
There's also like we've talked about underground marketing with Cloverfield as well, but like this movie, people were fucking taking VHS tapes and putting them on people's cars and in movie theater parking lots, and like there was online websites and stuff dedicated to the characters. And there's very much an eerie thing of like, what if this was real? What if this is just a movie about a tape that really exists?
And like I said, that's kind of where the ending leaves it too. So I feel like if somebody like left that on my car, I probably would have been freaked out at the time. So shout out to that marketing, and it kind of tied in with that too. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit, but just everything with the video and the creepy visuals, I think does work really, really well. A couple of those little scenes I wanted to point out too was when she like pulls the fly like out of the video. I think that is just like, really gross and really creepy. And then everything surrounding with that, because as the movie went along, she runs into like visuals that you see from the video.
Yeah.
She sees that ladder, and then she sees the bloody waves, obviously from the horse we were talking about at the beginning. I think that stuff is really cool of like, maybe because she's making this journey, like my thought process was like, oh, maybe once she sees the entire video in real life, and obviously she goes to the house where like that the dad character was like, spying or peeking on it, whatever. Like, so she has a lot of flashback visuals with that. I thought maybe the ending would be, oh, once she's seen the entire video and realized, what this girl's been through, that's when she's safe. That was obviously not the plot, but I think I would have preferred that, just because everything with that visuals was super creepy and kind of was probably the thing I liked most about this movie, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, I do like how the motifs kind of just keep popping up. And I mean, obviously, even like your background, what you learn, what that means at the end of the movie, and the connection of the well and everything.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty interesting.
And actually, too, that was my last kind of big thing I want to talk about too, is just like the free fall into the well. It's scary because I mean, obviously, too,
talk about
like,
dumb character moments.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that here in just a second. But I mean, she does get pushed in, obviously, by these supernatural forces. And the way they find the well is maybe the dumbest thing ever, which again we'll talk about. But not sure how she survived. But I think just everything down there is pretty cool from a story-wise perspective too, of them kind of finally unraveling what happened to this girl. Shout out Brian Cox for maybe being the worst father of all time. But once you get down there and you see that visual, that reveal of kind of like what the ring is when you're watching it in that video, I think is cool. And that's my favorite shot from the video for sure, is the kind of the ring imagery. So I really like that part as well.
Yeah, I love the ending of this movie. Like I would have enjoyed what you were positing there, where it's like if you watched all of it, or if you like reenact all of it, then maybe you can survive. That's cool too. But I think just even the idea of like, hey, you have to copy this and pass it on to someone else, I think is a really fun and creepy idea. And like the fact that she's making her kid do it to have her kid survive. Do you know that it follows how that works, what that curse is?
Not really. And I'll take a guess because I know some journals. Isn't it like if you have sex, you die or something? Is that the basics?
So it's a curse, but you can pass it to another person by having sex with them. And then it's basically like the snail in the meme where it's like it follows you around, but it walks very slowly. So the curse is always following you, and it could be any person, but it's like it doesn't run. It just walks slowly.
It follows.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you can have sex with someone, but then if that person gets killed, then it comes back down the line. So it's kind of like a weird, it is
doesn't
you're
end
not
really.
fully escaping it necessarily, but the movie starts with like Micah Monroe having sex with a guy and then getting the curse brought upon her. And obviously that's like a big metaphor for STDs, but it's taking the ring kind of, you have to pass it on to another person thing and expounding upon it.
I think it's interesting. That's definitely not my favorite part of kind of that's where the story is resolved at.
It's a little evil.
It is. It kind of just doesn't make sense either. Like, I feel like if what she did is go and find what happened to this girl and, get her body out of the well, like I would think that would be enough to kind of like stop the curse altogether. But no, it's going to keep going on. And unless you duplicate this video, which I don't know, I like your point there is interesting, but I just kind of think that's stupid.
Something else that I really like about this movie is that it is an investigation movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we've kind of got into already that we don't love necessarily the reveals or the results of the investigation, but I love that she's a reporter, not a cop. She's we get into that in Smile, where it's kind of like a cop is doing some, but this is an investigative reporter, a journalist trying to, she's looking at old newspapers. There's just a lot of cool, like those type scenes. And then also on top of that, like there's a line from Brian Cox where he's like, oh, reporters, you take one person's tragedy and spread it like sickness all over the world. And then thematically that obviously is returning with like this girl, the Samara girl in the video, the one who is obviously trapped in the well and all that stuff. Like she's just wants to be heard. She's trying to spread her voice. And that's where, they have to spread it and copy it around to other people and inflict the horror.
I do think thematically
doing her job as a journalist.
True. She's doing it well, I guess. I think thematically that is interesting when you dive deeper into it. And like you said too, I think another one of my favorite parts is the investigative angle of this. Even in it's a common horror movie trope, I feel like. I mean, we saw it in It. We saw it in the first Smile, which I really enjoyed that in the first Smile with that angle. And with this here, I mean, yeah, uncovering this stuff. Again, I feel like it takes maybe a little bit too long. Like she comes out to the island, they come back, she comes back out again, then the guy meets her out there. It's kind of just like, I feel like it was the first time we see Brian Cox. Let's get all the details out. Like let's spill everything. And it does have that slow burn aspect to it, but trying to figure out, like what is the motive for this and what's the reasoning this video even exists. I thought it was very interesting.
Let's jump over to the bad, Cody. I'll let you get started. What doesn't work?
Well, the first thing off the bat I want to talk about, call me you, maybe Loki, because I'm gonna come at the kid actor off the bat. I think in general he's solid, but just character wise, just kind of a creepy little kid. First off, I mean, he calls his mother by her first name. He calls her Rachel.
Cody, don't be mean to the little autistic kid. He's just trying to watch his videos.
I do like him in general, but I think story wise, it loses me. I mean, he's in like what, second grade, and he just dressed himself in like a 3-piece suit.
He draws creepy little pictures. He's got a vibe.
He's predicting deaths and stuff early on, which is fair. I mean, his cousin did tell him that he was going to die, which is kind of a tough thing to tell, again, a second grader. But he's just like way too emotionally mature. And he also just watches the videos for no reason. He's got easy access to it. When he watched it, I was pretty pissed. That was definitely, I was like, all right, I don't know if I like this movie that much anymore. So again, I think performance-wise, he's good. It's kind of a cool throwback to maybe an homage to The Shining. Where obviously, there's a really, really great kid performance who is also, pretty emotionally mature for his age. So I like that homage. But just everything they kind of included him story-wise, I was kind of bummed out by.
Insane for you to come on this podcast and be hating on a budding young cinephile. He's just trying to fucking watch the greats, man.
True. I shouldn't be mad at him for wanting to see some good horror imagery. So I guess that's more of a personal thing for me.
Something that I don't love is the twisty aspect that they kind of try and half-ass do, where it's basically like, oh, Samara really is evil, and when you guys pull her out of the well, you're actually really to me, that stuff doesn't. I kind of hate that. The movie Ouija, which is a film I watched over October. It wasn't in Cage-tober, but I watched Ouija. I just like to say Ouija. Ouija and Ouija Origin of Evil, which is the prequel. The whole twist of Ouija is that the like, sorry to spoil it, but you're never gonna watch it. Styles White hit. There's like a girl that they need to save or what, like there's a corpse. They have to like put the sewn mouth open so she can speak and be free because her mother was evil. And then when they do that, it's like, just kidding, the kid was a fucking witch. You guys are done for now. I guess it steals it from this movie, but just the whole thing of like, oh, the kid's actually like, obviously the kid's fucking evil. Like, yes, Brian Cox, not a good parent, but this kid's up to some witchy stuff and you could tell.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, I feel like for me, if we got to that point where we get her out of the well, like I'm down for a happy ending at that point. I think motivation wise, like the evil girl should be, happy. She finally got out of this place where she's been stuck for forever.
Yeah.
But no, she's got to have, carnage on the rest of the world, which I guess fair enough in her situation. But I mean, that was kind of going along with what I was saying earlier too. I don't really understand why it's like, oh, you need to make a copy to not die. Super dumb. Like in theory, if Naomi Watts didn't make a copy of it and she dragged her out of the well, she still would have died.
Yeah.
So I don't really like that. I think that should just like give you immunity if you help this girl get out of the well. But she doesn't care about that, I guess. So they could have just left her down there and nothing would have changed, right?
She just likes doing her magic, man. I don't know.
I mean, I respect that, but still kind of dumb. And also, too, just like overall messaging, and I may be misreading this too, but I feel like the overall messaging kind of surrounding this girl and then also this kind of, mini broken family that we have in the forefront, it's pretty much just like, you should be a better parent. Because obviously, Brian Cox, really bad parent.
I don't know if it's really trying to say too much about that.
but both stories have aspects.
Like, don't adopt a witch, too. I don't know.
Yeah, they did kind of get screwed by the adoptions agency. So shout out. But also like the main plot here, like obviously the super smart kid, Zach Braff is his dad, evidently. But he hasn't been there. He doesn't think he could be a good dad. But then when they uncover all the stuff about Brian Cox, it's like, I mean, you can't be this bad of a dad, so you might as well come and try. So that's just kind of what I took of some of the overall themes, and I don't really
that doesn't
like
last very long for him.
Yeah, true. He still needs a dad, unfortunately. And then the other big thing I wanted to talk about too, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier too, but so once they go back to the cabin in Oregon, they are kind of stuck at like a dead end. They don't really know, like they know they should be there, but they don't really know why. And then they're frustrated. Something happens where they knock down like a bunch of marbles. Zach Braff gets mad and knocks something down. It's just like the marbles like form up magnetically and they like point to the spot where like the well's at or whatever. I'm just like, dude, come on, like come up with something more interesting or have them have a clue to find that. But just for them being angry and knocking over marbles is like the reason they find that I think is really, really stupid.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that's bad, but I just love all the dumb shit.
It makes it fun, but yeah, definitely deserves to be in the bad.
Brian Cox, just in general, I don't know if his performance is too great to be entirely honest with you.
Shots fired.
It's in that X-Men era of Brian Cox where he's kind of doing the same thing, similar dad energy there, but he's got a great suicide. I just want to commend him for grabbing every piece of electrical equipment in his house and going out with a bang.
Yeah, a little bit of an overboard. I think maybe just a toaster would have done the trick, but he wanted to make sure, I guess. But yeah, those usually go over my head. But I think he's okay. He's just not really given a ton to do. I mean, like dialogue wise, maybe he has like 10 lines, like tops, and most of it is just like "get out of my house, you freak." So I kind of agree. Not his best stuff, but I still really enjoyed seeing him pop up here.
Any other bads?
Like, what are you supposed to do with her? I guess you're just supposed to copy and distribute here. So, yeah. I mean, maybe take it to a bigger film agency and just send this thing worldwide in a movie form, which
put it on
I
YouTube.
guess it is kind of this movie, I guess, low key. So it has been over a week since I watched it, I think, though. So I think we're fine. But yeah, just like the overall of like.
Well, I shared it with you. Did you share it with anybody?
Not yet, actually. Yeah, so I'm probably not in the clear.
Attempt.
Yeah, I need to start distributing it to secure my safety for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about the ugly. horse murder, that's not great, or horse suicide, I guess.
Yeah.
Really, like, why is she fucking with that horse on the boat? Like, that horse is just trying to mind its business.
Yeah.
And then Naomi Watts has to walk up to it and be like, "What's going on, horse?" And then it loses its mind and jumps
Yeah.
off the boat.
Like, why are you trying to pet this horse? You know you have this, curse surrounding you,
You've
and
heard that
it
there's
doesn't
shit with
like
horses.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I mean, just keep your distance. I think if you see a horse, I mean, just run to the other side of the ferry at that point. So pretty ugly, just Naomi there, because I mean, just using common sense, you're probably asking that horse to die pretty quickly.
I think no
Um,
horses were harmed in the making of this. I saw the PETA logo at the end.
I would hope so.
American
Yeah.
Humane Society.
We're coming after Gore if that's not correct. I guess we can talk about Brian Cox a little bit more here too, because like I was saying, I mean, I don't know if they explain this fully plot wise, but from my understanding of it, it was like his wife obviously just wasn't able to have kids for forever, and then they ended up wanting to adopt, obviously, and then find this girl. But from my understanding, it was like Brian Cox is the one saying like, "Nah, she's messed up. Like you have to, get rid of her immediately. Go push her down this well." So in my head, he's the one kind of telling his wife to do that, which I think is very, very ugly and just not really fair at all.
You are right. So essentially, what happens is she comes to the island. Bad shit starts happening. The crops fail.
Yeah.
People get sick, and then he tries to he sends her to the mental hospital, which is where all the stuff with like the chair shots and everything, and she goes in business. So he sends her there, and like I don't think things get any better. So then he brings her home, but like nobody knows that he brought her home, and that's when he traps her in the attic, and that's the whole like wallpaper peel thing, that upper attic room, and that's where the horses come into play, because she's in the barn with the horses, and basically
Right.
like 40 horses commit suicide, and then people come and investigate, and they're like, why are these horses killing themselves? There's no explanation. And then Brian Cox is like, all right, fuck it, this chick's going down a well.
Yeah. So not the dad of the year.
No.
In my
And then I guess the
category.
wife dies somewhere in there too as well.
Yeah. Which again, I guess it is what it is, but pretty ugly from Brian Cox altogether. And still pretty ugly for the wife. I really feel the worst for her. Because obviously she wanted kids for so long, and then this madness ensues when she finally gets a daughter, which really sucks. But other than that, kind of a little small thing that you were kind of talking about too, of like Naomi, she coughs up like this, it's like this string with the sticky stuff on the end, which that's when she went to like the mental asylum place. They kind of put that on and were doing tests on her. Like, what's the logistics of that? How did this sticky stuff get inside of Naomi Harris? Just because she watched this video, and
When you're asking why people are coughing up mysterious things in a horror movie, I think you're asking the wrong question.
Also, it's just gross. Like, if it came into play later, where like they had that stuff on her, which I thought it was just a little bit like foreshadowing, I think that would be cool. But for that not to really have a place in the story later on, I thought it was kind of just dumb and just a gross gag for a gross gag.
Sure. Last thing I'll say on the ugly, and we can take some, or I can take some blame for this, but like I always struggle with the idea of American remakes and like where do they fit in the idea, like it's not really necessarily like, do we need this movie to exist? I think the fact that you have like the release of the iPad and 9/11 and all these things that are happening in American culture at the time, I think this movie has enough to say on its own that's a little bit slightly different from the original. But at the same time, I encourage people to watch the originals of things, and to at least at the very least know where things come from, educate yourself on them. J horror in Japanese horror is this movie and The Grudge are like the two kind of like cornerstones of bringing that over into American media. And I think even that like is the early seeds of why things like Parasite, obviously a South Korean film, can have kind of crossover effect, 22 years later, or 30 years later almost.
Historically, I would say like the original is usually better too. So it's one that I'm interested to check out, especially after seeing this, just to kind of compare the similarities and differences. But like I said, I think if remaking stuff in general, I would normally stay away from. But when it is kind of really good in a different culture, and you think accessible, and you can say something different, surrounding American culture, I think it makes sense. But usually I would say, stay away from in general. But I think this movie is a good exception.
obviously, like, we saw it this year with Speak No Evil, a movie, basically within a year was remade.
Yeah.
It happens in horror. It happens in every, fucking facet of movie making, reboots and sequels. And like, you've always got to have some sort of IP. My thing is, like, I always say, if it gets one person to like be interested in the original, or being more inclined to watch something in a foreign language because of the reboot, then I think it's worthwhile, and it's worthy. I will shout out the boyfriend character in the original is played by Hiroki Sanada.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I mean, that right there probably reason enough to watch it. He's just kind of like a professor. He's not like a video guy like the boyfriend is. And then also I think the Cox character is different in the original as well. It's kind of, the suicide I know is vastly different, and he's not as robust as Cox is.
That's a Coxism, I think, to be fair. But I do want to check that out. Yeah, because I went and looked at the cast just to see if there's anybody on there, and I saw he was the main guy, and I was like, that's pretty awesome. So definitely one I want to check out, just because I do know a couple people in it as well.
Something that is interesting, I want to talk about The Grudge. That American remake is the same director so it's the Japanese director of the original Grudge.
That's awesome.
The film series got to remake it for the American version. And something about that too is it stays. The cool thing about The Grudge is that it is kind of inherently still a Japanese franchise, and that like it stars Sarah Michelle Gellar, and it's got American actors, but it takes place in Japan. So it's like Americans in Japan that are being haunted by this curse. Even in like, I saw the reboot that they did a couple years ago that was just also called The Grudge. There was another American remake of it. It's the same thing where it's like the curse comes from Japan and it is inflicting these people, which I think is cool. This one obviously is very much removed from the original source material.
It's a good point, though. I mean, if just to be a little bit more respectful, I feel like that is a cool thing to do. If maybe you still could have had the origin story like in Japan, and then she has to go to Japan instead of,
I mean, who knows where this tape came from? Maybe.
Right. I don't even know. Where is this island even at? I don't even know where they're going. So they could have made it anywhere, really, and just kept it a little bit more, culturally respectful to the original, which would have been cool.
Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at KHAP Podcasts, KHAP Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more.
And we're back with Welcome to the Academy.
I'm going for the Oscar this year.
You kind of spoiled one of mine already, so I'll start with it. Best name for a horror director, Gore Verbinski. It doesn't get any better than that, Cody. But this movie is not gory at all, so
yeah,
it's false advertising.
That's what I was gonna say. It makes sense for the genre, I guess. But if it was gorier, I think I'd like it a bunch more. And actually, in my Academy Awards, I did have it down for the dumbest director name of all time. So I think genre-wise, maybe it would work, but just like the name Gore Verbinski, just stupid. I may be a natural hater, but I just don't like that name. So
you know, who names a kid Gore? Well, do you know what Gore is short for?
Gore Malafew? I have no idea.
Gregor.
That's a Game of Thrones name right there. But go by Gregor then. I mean, that's cooler than Gore. I don't know, because he's not like a massive horror guy, like you said.
Can you guess where he was born, Cody?
Gregor, England.
Gregor Justin Verbinski was born in Tennessee.
No, he's not. He doesn't even have this cool international mystique or anything. He's just a guy from Tennessee, which I think that brings down this movie a little bit more for me, unfortunately. So, bad fun fact there. Kind of ruined it for me, but fair enough.
Sorry.
Shout out Gregor. My other Academy, because we basically had the same one there, which is fun. But my other one too, which I talked about a little bit, I think this is maybe the wettest movie that we've covered. I mean, there's just puddles everywhere too. Every time kind of the ring girl makes an appearance here, I mean, she's leaving a little pond behind. So it's getting really wet, and obviously it's raining the entire time. We haven't covered Zodiac. I think maybe that would be up there. Prisoners is another. Yeah, seven.
We
Yeah, I
have
mean,
covered
obviously,
prisoners, so
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, there's tons of stuff that
but it doesn't rain for the whole movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but just like inside and being super wet, I think maybe this movie would stand out. So I wanted to shout that out.
Inception wet for part of it because he has to pee or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, and they, yeah, I mean, jump into a river basically.
Yeah, exactly. Dune, notoriously not a wet movie.
The first one, when they're on their home planet.
Caladan, yeah.
Yeah.
Wet planet.
That's pretty wet.
The Batman is a wet
Yeah,
film because
true.
it's basically homaging Seven, which is constantly wet.
I mean, everything is kind of homaging Seven, right? Like,
Martian again, not a wet film. we got some dry ones on here for sure.
Yeah, Mad Max.
Dry
I
movies.
mean, that's super dry.
Yeah, The Maze Runner, that feels dry. Indiana Jones.
Isn't it called the wetland or something? No, the Glade. I feel like that means water for some reason.
That's a wet movie.
Yeah,
I mean, horror movies
down in the sewers. Yeah.
Don't Breathe, wet for different reasons. Uncut Gem, again, wet for different reasons. The Lighthouse is wet.
Yeah, that's a good one too, actually.
Yeah.
That movie's just crazy though. There's so many other things.
I think I'll give it to you. This is the wettest movie for sure.
Heck yeah. Appreciate that.
I want to just go ahead and give this movie the Oscar. They should have given it best live action short. Just the film inside the movie should have gotten the Oscar. Also, bluest film. Name another one. Can't think of any. And then original score. Like, I think we haven't said it, but Hans Zimmer did the music for this movie. Obviously, he's a Gore Verbinski collaborator. But legitimately, I think the music is very solid for it. It creates the atmosphere. It's very important. Sound design is huge. The synthy stuff that's created here is awesome.
I back that. Hans, always underrated, but that was one of the things too that I did notice and I like throughout as well. So I back it.
Let's jump over to Invite, Fight, Night.
You gotta be my podcast.
You want to fight, dickless?
Wow, thanks. My knight in shining armor.
Cody, who do you want to invite on the pod?
Yeah, so for this, I mean, it's a pretty small cast altogether. So I went mostly for smaller roles for Invite, Fight Night here. For my invite, actually going back to that beginning scene, I want to invite not the girl who went crazy and died. I want to invite her friend at the beginning. Because the one scene that we got after that too, where she's kind of in, this crazy mental state, I thought was pretty interesting. So I wish we saw a little bit more of her and she can come on the pod, tell us maybe some gory details of that day and kind of just all the fallout with that. But I would definitely just want to hear more of kind of her side of the story for this.
What does one see when their friend is getting ring girled?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm kind of disappointed. Like, the only thing I don't love about that opening is like we didn't see like specifically like when it happened. I know it's probably maybe that would have taken it to a rating R, but I would have been down for it. I think that's the one thing maybe that scene was missing, was just a little bit more visuals of her dying, I guess, which again maybe is not a good thing to ask for, but I think it would have been more effective for me.
You sick freak.
Yeah, I got issues, I guess.
I want to get the director of the videotape, which I think is technically the girl, Samara. Like, she is the creator at the end of the day. So
who edited this thing? Really?
I want to get her on, but purely from, I want to know her reasoning, her choices. Why did she make this cut? Why did she choose this shot? A purely filmmaking interview. We don't need to get into any of the other scary stuff that she does, but I just want to know about, why did she like the ladder against the wall? What's the deeper meaning there?
Yeah. The creative decisions behind it, I think, would be very interesting for a full episode breakdown. But I mean, yeah, there's no credits involved either. So I mean, did she shoot it all? Did she cut it all?
Does she
I'm very interested.
Appreciate proper attribution? Does she does she hate, giving credit to people?
I want to hear her framing thoughts. Yeah, I want to hear it all. So I'm on board. That's a good pick.
Fight. Who do you want to fight?
Yeah, it's my fight. Another kind of random character, but when Naomi shows up at the cabin, looking for obviously kind of clues in the videotape and stuff at the beginning, the guy who's working at the cabin, I want to fight this guy. He's the guy who just randomly when she walks in is like, "Hey, do you want to see a magic trick?" And then he can't do the magic trick. Like, why are you asking if you can't do it? So that pissed me off, and he doesn't really do anything else past that. But I think for that alone, he needs to get decked in the face. Yeah.
That's fair. I did write down. I didn't know where to bring it up, but yeah, really bad magic going on there.
I mean, why is that a line in the movie? Stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
It has
also
nothing
just
to
like
do with anything.
getting the tape, just like why is this tape just there?
Yeah, no reason really.
Discerning. Come on, be a better worker. I'm sorry, the little kid's getting punted. Like he's just he's like a little football.
I was waiting for the slander from you.
I mean, listen, I think he's a fine actor, but just as a character, he deserves it.
We're on the same page. I don't know if a punt is where I'd be going, but I respect it. Character wise, he deserves something bad. I don't know how he got away, scot free here. It's pretty embarrassing. So
yeah, he's gonna survive, and he's gonna copy the tape.
I'm on board. My night here, I think it was one of my favorite characters. And again, kind of, I wish we saw more of this guy, but it was a guy when Chicken Little was going to get the security tape at the end, and it was a guy he was like not a security tape. He was going to get that tape at the end of when they released her or whatever, and it's a security guard there who was helping him find that, and he just like cracking some jokes and stuff, and I thought he was super likable. He's like, I got everything on lock down here. Don't touch anything. And then when they get to this specific video, it's gone, and he's like, oh, what the hell? So I really like his bit, and I just wish we saw a little bit more. Maybe just throw him in the story and have the ring girl kill him too or something, and I'd be on board. But I think he deserves a night just for being kind of a fun presence and mostly, pretty dark movie.
I love a worker that just gets the moment to shine. That's good stuff for sure. I'm gonna knight the horses. They didn't deserve to go out that way. They deserve some love.
They got the worst of it too, and they didn't even do anything. So yeah, I back that.
Forced to commit suicide.
The continuing of animal nights as well. We're racking those out big time.
Yeah, not the actor in this case, just the actual characters. Because I think those are CGI horses at the end of the day. The recast, Cody.
What are you?
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Because I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Hey, I'm Batman.
No, dude. No, I'm Batman.
Who are we throwing in? I'll give you just a couple almosts.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Instead of Naomi Watts, people thought Gwyneth Paltrow. She could be good.
Okay, I could see that.
Jennifer Connelly.
I like Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, that'd be good.
Then finally Kate Beckinsale.
Shout out Tiptoes. Yeah, no, she'd be solid. Does she get to wear her, what was it, a hat or a scarf? What was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. I've blocked out from my brain. Not a real movie. All people that I think make sense. I think Gwyneth Paltrow probably too big at this point, coming off the Oscar stuff. Connelly and Beckinsale, I could see. Arguably, all three of those people have had better careers than Naomi Watts. Kate and Beckinsale, it's probably arguable between the two.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen much of anything else with her in it, really. Which I thought she was good in this, too. So it is kind of surprising for how big of a kind of cultural hit. I think she came back for the sequel, and the kid did as well. Have you seen Rings?
No, I've unfortunately not seen the sequel.
It looked like it did not have very good reviews. So maybe that kind of was, a part of the downfall of her career. But I thought she was solid. The thing is with this cast here, it's so small. So, I mean, I kind of went after the big hitters. I did think about replacing, what's his face? Zach Braff. What's his actual name? I said it earlier. Martin
Henderson, who does appear in the film X, which I know you're a fan of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is the other thing I know him from. I do like that movie a lot, and he's actually pretty solid in it. But I wanted to replace him because I thought he was just kind of just mid in this movie. And I was kind of thinking around this era who would have been good. And maybe a fun choice would have been like a Matthew Perry. Somebody who never really touched the horror genre that much, but still kind of a likable actor. And I could really see him being like this deadbeat dad who, didn't want to be a father. I think he could fit into that pretty easily. So I thought that would be a fun choice to replace, the wannabe Zach Braff here. Or just throw in Zach Braff, I guess. Would you have preferred that?
No, I would not. But courtesy of Mina, I do have a similar to a Matthew Perry, a Max Greenfield. I'll raise you.
Nice.
Okay. That's what Mina was suggesting. She wanted Schmidt as the boyfriend.
If he's doing the full Schmidt character, I'm on board. Honestly, I like that. We both were thinking sitcom dads though, which is fun.
My real pick. Let's let Aubrey Plaza star as the lead of a Ring movie.
Okay.
I think she could play the Naomi Watts role.
Yeah, I mean, she could have been the ring girl, honestly, too.
That's
She's
also
got
true.
she's got that creepy aspect, but yeah, I would definitely be down. I think she would be really good in that leading role as well. I wish she was in more horror stuff, 'cause she does just give off such horror
Well, hey,
vibes.
Cody, big Agatha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll talk about Agatha, where she does have an interesting role, and it is a horror based role too. So good for her, and keep her in that genre. I think she would really succeed. A couple of my other small ones was mostly just looking at like the kid characters.
Hmm.
So I wanted to replace obviously the main kid. And I was thinking young Sheldon. Just throw him in.
Ian Armitage. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going like the full nerdy and this kid's super, smart and kind of mature.
Neurodivergent, yeah.
Yeah, just throw that kid in and he'll make everything better. And then the other one too, I want to shout out from Smile 2, the little creepy girl where she was staring at her when she was signing like autographs for fans and stuff.
The one that she just signs her shirt inexplicably.
Make her the ring girl. I think that would be very, very scary. Except that little girl's smile face is pretty disturbing. So I want to throw that in as well with our mini review.
I figured the girl from Megan could play the ring girl too. Like if we need maybe a Megan the Ring crossover, like where the videotape Megan watches the videotape, like what happens then? That'd be crazy.
That would be sick. I would watch that.
Also, another spin is like the Muppets the Ring. Like, can we have
Really?
the Muppets do like what? Why are the Muppets not doing a horror movie?
Well, they did the Haunted Mansion, but it wasn't really horror, I guess. Yeah, I would love to see. I mean, get Gore on board to direct a Muppet movie and go super gory. I'd be down. I don't know if the public would, but I would definitely be down.
There'll be fucking stuffing everywhere, dude. It'll be crazy. Naomi Watts, I do want to shout out. She was in King Kong. She was in Peter Jackson's King Kong in 2005 after this. And then another American remake of a horror film that's directed by the same person who directed the non-English language version, the film Funny Games. She was the star of, which is directed by Michael Haneke, who directed the original Funny Games as well.
Nice. She's big into the remakes, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, she was obviously she was in Mulholland Drive, the David Lynch film, the year before this.
That's right. I haven't seen that,
which was kind of her big break. She hasn't. I don't know. She's not had a great career in the 2010s.
I always forget about that King Kong movie. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. Jack Black, Peter Jackson, super long. But that is a remake too, technically. So maybe she's just a big fan of remakes.
I guess so. Let's jump over to the rating.
As you proceed through the poetry in this book, practice this rating method.
What are you gonna give this movie out of 69?
I think this is a tough one for me. It's right in that range, like 3 to 3.5 stars. I think I'm gonna go on the lower ends and give it a 42 out of 69. It's a movie I think I would enjoy maybe a little bit more and rewatch. But yeah, the creepy aspects I really like. Like I said, I think it just drags on during the second act. And I wish kind of Brian Cox, just for me personally, was a little bit more prevalent. So, that bumps it down a little bit just with his limited screen time.
Fair enough. You're a big Brian Cox guy. If you can get more Brian Cox, the movie would be better. Every minute of screen time probably raise it up 1 point.
I back it, honestly. I mean, he's only in it for like 5 minutes. So that definitely has a hand in my rating here for sure.
I'm going to give this movie a 56 out of 69.
Nice.
Solid 4-star movie for me. One of my highest, it's at like the top of the 4 stars for me. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Is this like, you think it's like top 5, top 10 horror movie for you? Where do you think it's sitting at?
Let's save that for weekly watches. We can do a little horror movie rankings, Cody. But no, it's like top 20 maybe, I think.
Okay. That's still pretty far off. I mean, yeah, it's not bad.
We'll hit it. Teaser for in 10 minutes. Tomato, Cody.
Tomato. I'm throwing tomatoes.
So obviously this cast is a little tough.
Yeah.
We could be Cox it, but I thought another thing is we could just grab your Caged Over list and have some fun with that.
Okay. I'm done.
And it is 22. So it's Critters 3, which means we're doing Leo. Leo tomato. This should get interesting.
I think maybe. No, I don't know if we have done a Leo one before. If so, I mean, he's got such a big filmography. I think it doesn't matter. I think also we should take Critters 3 out of the running here.
Yeah, Critters 3 probably one of his worst films on here.
I think I went first last time too. So your pick, your man Leo.
Do you know what Critters 3 has on Rotten Tomatoes, Cody? This is
It can't be
shocking.
good.
This is
I would-
0%.
0.
Seven verified reviews, to be fair. Not a lot of people have seen it.
But they did not like it, to say the least.
Good Lord. Yeah, no, man.
That's insane. It's not that bad.
Good thing it's out of the running. I will go first. And I'm gonna go for.
There's not many bad Leo movies, really.
I mean, there's a couple like not great ones. I'm gonna go J. Edgar.
Yeah.
And that has a 44%. I mean, yeah, it's really still solid, but
I would have thought it was definitely low or higher than that. Okay. I mean, I could say any of his movies really, and they're probably going to be high here. And we've done a good fare of them as well. What would be the highest? He's in so much good stuff. I think I might just stay basic. I mean, I feel like Inception has to be, mid 90s or at least 90s. So I'll say that.
87 for Inception.
Okay. I could have gone more Oscar baity, I guess, and maybe gotten a little bit higher, but I'm happy with that.
Yeah, the question is like, do I go The Revenant? Obviously wins him the Oscar. Wolf of Wall Street, I think, is probably the highest. I know we've talked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood not having necessarily like a crazy high score.
I think that was like 85 or 87 too.
I mean, Catch Me If You Can, Cody.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, I should have said that one. That's up
96. 96%.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great movie. I mean, go check out our episode on that one because I love that movie. But okay, can I get something way lower?
So the gap is 52 here that you're trying to create. So
it's gonna be tough.
Movie lower than 32 or 35.
I mean, even like his young stuff, like Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. That could be low. I like that movie though, but maybe Rotten Tomatoes wouldn't. Like what's Eating Gilbert Grape? I think that would be good. I mean, a lot of the stuff too, like you've seen that I haven't seen, is like Body of Lies and The Beach. Maybe The Beach would be lower. I think I might just go Romeo and Juliet because I feel like that's like in the 50s for some reason.
Oh, Cody, you sold so hard. You said an answer that would have won you the game. The Beach with a 21%. But 21. Sadly, I would take the film William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which is 74. People respect it.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason that would be downplayed on Rotten. I like that movie a lot, actually. I think Claire Danes, that's prime Claire Danes for me, easily.
I think that movie is good as well. I mean, I had to watch it in high school, and it makes Shakespeare palatable. So
yeah, that's not the easiest thing to do.
Movies that he's actually starred in that are rotten. Most recently, Don't Look Up has a 56%. The film The Great Gatsby has a 48%.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that.
Body of Lies is a 55.
Okay.
The Beach is a 21.
I could have gone with either of them.
The Man in the Iron Mask is a 32. Would have also won you the game. The Quick and the Dead, a 58. Basketball Diaries, a 47.
Nice.
Total Eclipse, which is something he was in 1995, 22%.
Oh.
And then the highs, we saw it. The Departed, 91. Inception is at 87. The Ides of no, he's not in that. Django Unchained is an 87.
Nice. Once Upon a Time
is an 86.
Yeah. The Aviator.
Killers of the Flower Moon is a 93.
Yeah. He's just been in so much good stuff. You could, like I said, you can name anything and it's going to be up there, really.
Just to say it, The Revenant is a 70.
Yeah. Not that good.
Not great. All right, let's jump over to weekly watches.
How's the movie?
What movie?
We can kind of do a quick little Cage-tober wrap up and general horror kind of rankings. Did you have a favorite movie you watched in Cage-tober? Did you complete Cage-tober, Cody?
So I was very close. I'm actually one film off. I even checked out Talk to Me, which I'm excited to see. That's been on my watch list for forever, and obviously an A24 flick. But I did watch 23 other movies, and there were some highs, and there were definitely some lows. I think to start off at the lows, I think definitely my least favorite was Leprechaun, which is just really, really bad. The OG does have Jennifer Aniston in it, so it makes it a little bit better. And what's the main guy's name? Warwick Davis. He commits.
Yeah.
As Leprechaun.
The Leprechaun, yes.
Yeah, he's really good. So that elevates a little bit for me, but everything else with that movie is just really, really terrible. So like I said, definitely would probably be my least favorite. Critters 3 is also in the running there. But recently too, I checked out a couple of the other ones in the last week that made it pretty high on my list. And the first one was Longlegs, which I did go see in theaters. They re-released it through Regal, which I was pumped about because I missed it in theaters originally. And obviously being on my KHAP list, I was like, oh, this is perfect timing. So I went and checked that out, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it. Like super tight script. Again, I don't say this often, but maybe could have even been like 5 or 10 minutes longer, and I would have enjoyed it more. Nick Cage is doing some crazy stuff, which I'm sure everybody's aware of at this point, but I was really creeped out by it. I feel like that is definitely like hit or miss for kind of enjoyability of that movie altogether, I would say. But I was really bought in. I thought the main girl, Micah Monroe, was really good as well. And like story wise, it
I don't
didn't do
like the
anything.
end. I think the reveal is stupid.
Yeah, it didn't do anything crazy. I was surprised by the reveal, but I think more of just like the filmmaking style as well. I was really intrigued by and just want to see more from the director altogether. So that was maybe my biggest surprise. That is honestly probably like a top two, top three movie for me this year. I think I probably like Twisters just personally a little bit more because I'm a Twister fanatic. But I think Longlegs is definitely a better movie than
So
Twisters.
we got Dune, Twisters, and Long Legs is the top
Yeah,
three, Cody?
that's my top three so far. I mean,
All right.
obviously a lot of Oscar bait coming
Yeah,
out.
a lot of
I'm
stuff to still
excited.
see.
I'm excited to see like Conclave and obviously a lot of these other Beatty movies, but that is the current rankings. And then the other thing too that I checked out here recently was Poltergeist. I checked that out a couple days ago, and I didn't really know going into it either that I mean it's basically a Spielberg movie. Like he co-wrote it, executive producer, blah blah
Maybe
blah.
directed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like you kind of had I mean, it's very Spielberg-esque, where it's family centered, and you really do get connected to like just this couple and obviously the kind of the whole family dynamic. I thought it was really good. Again, maybe second act kind of similar to this The Ring here, where it drags a little bit, and obviously some of the CG doesn't stand up, amazing. But I was genuinely scared by it. I didn't know Spielberg kind of had the deepest horror bag, so I thought that was really good too. And other than that, I mean, I checked out American Psycho recently, which that was the first time I'd ever seen that. I thought it was okay. Obviously I think the more the deeper metaphorical stuff is where it really gets heralded as like a classic, and that's just not my kind of specialty. Is kind of the diving into the. There's also a ton of stuff because I went back and listened to the RCR episode on it too. Shout out to our compadres. And a cool thing that they mentioned was like, there's so much stuff that happens off screen on that movie where you kind of just have to plug in the details on it, which is something I didn't really think about that much. So maybe a revisit will help me out on that, similar to The Ring here as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed Cage Tober. Like I said, definitely grinded this past week trying to finish everything up, got pretty close. But I think it was a great idea and really kind of dipped my toes into a lot of horror stuff that I hadn't seen. So I really enjoyed it all together. But yeah, talk to me about some of your highs and lows, man.
When you just watched American Psycho in time for the Luca Guadagnino remake announcement to hit,
No.
how do you feel about that?
I mean, I love Luca, so I'll probably watch it. I don't know. I mean,
When
the
it's
thing is
inevitably
like,
Jacob Elordi and you're just like, I don't know if I want this.
yeah, I'm not a massive Lordy guy either, but I'll probably watch it. It's just like do your own thing. I think Luca's so creative. I don't know why he needs a lean like on a remake of kind of that scale. So interesting choice, but we'll see how it pans out. But I'm not, a big fan of it.
I had a lot of fun with Cage Tober. My favorite watch was the film Cure, which I would recommend. 1997. It's a Japanese movie, kind of about this like serial killing hypnosis serial killer who doesn't have a memory. It's really interesting, very eerie. Every scene is just kind of like very calculated and very well crafted, and I love the ending of it as well. And then I technically did not finish by October 31st. Last night, November 1st, I watched my last movie, my 24th film, which was Rosemary's Baby, which I enjoyed. Rosemary's Baby, Train to Busan were my next two like favorites of the movies. Nice. I think both very well crafted. And then my least favorite watch was not Leprechaun, which was on my list, but in fact, The Wicker Man, which in terms of another American remake, very unnecessary, very bad, poorly acted.
Yeah.
Weirdly I talked about it in another weekly watches, but
it's got crazy Nick Cage though, so that makes it better than Leprechaun for me. But yeah, both pretty bad flicks there.
I watched another Nick Cage movie, Vampire's Kiss, which is interesting. Kind of has a lot of American Psycho energy to it to a certain degree. He's kind of doing like an early Patrick Bateman thing in that movie, but then there's also like some of the Nick Cage memes I'm sure you've seen are from that movie, Vampire's Kiss.
It's got great monologues. Yeah.
He's going
counting.
for it. He is going for it. And then other highlights. I enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street a lot. I didn't like the end. The very ending kind of ruined it for me, but the rest of it's a lot of fun. Thirst, which is like a Park Chan-wook vampire movie starring Sung Kang-ho, the guy from the frequent Bong Joon-ho collaborator. Just like a sexy vampire movie, very fun. A lot of toe licking in that, good stuff.
Shout out, thank you.
Carrie also is a movie that I loved a lot. I love Brian De Palma's original Carrie film. The final set piece of that movie is insane.
A lot of classics you're talking about there, so I back a ton. Oh, and there's one other I want to talk about too. What We Do in the Shadows, which I hadn't seen before. I really like this. I didn't expect it to. I mean, obviously I've seen a few Taika flicks. Love and Thunder, I think, really has brought my opinion down on him. But I thought this was really good. Obviously, this is pretty much his start. And just from like a comedy perspective, it did have me rolling pretty much the entire movie. So not what I expected, kind of like a cool documentary style as well. So that'll be a high rec for me too. But yeah, man, get over. I had a ton of fun with it. So shout out to for you for getting us all to adopt this. But I do have one more to finish out. So I guess stay tuned and follow me on Letterboxd. Yeah, for that. But other than that too, I did want to talk about a couple small TV things that I've been watching.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so we were talking about Agatha. I did finish up the series last night. And the thing is, it's like it's 9 episodes, which is just a drag to get through. They're probably only like a half hour to 40 minutes each, so it's not terrible. But the first few I don't really like, probably like the first 3 or 4. And then there's a really good episode. It's like 5 or 6 where we find out kind of who this character is and we get his backstory. And there's a really fun cameo as well from WandaVision, which I won't spoil. But I really, really enjoyed it. Definitely my favorite thing about it. And then after that, they, I don't know, they kind of just don't go anywhere with it, which really, really stinks. In the finale specifically, like we just get some backstory on Agatha, and then it kind of just like ends, and there's no like resolution. So it kind of just pisses me off, if I'm being completely honest, because like the story was going somewhere, and I kind of liked where it was going. But it's kind of similar to other, MCU shows as well, where it's just 9 episodes of filler. I feel like we don't actually have a resolution for Agatha or really, this Billy character. They're kind of just setting it up for what's to come. We don't get kind of an ending, so that pisses me off. And also, it just retcons the entire thing at the end.
2 questions.
Really yeah.
One, was it Agatha all along?
I mean, no, not really.
Damn.
Should I go full spoilers here? And do
No.
It's not even really spoiling.
I mean, I just don't even want to hear it, to be honest. But
it really
my other thing, like, what is it setting up? That's my question. Is like, what is the future of this? Like, where are these characters going to appear next?
I mean, the Young Avengers, basically. Okay. Like that's what they're setting up is Wanda's kids. Is kind of
Wiccan and
so they're going to find Tommy, basically. We don't even see him come back, but it's heavily implied that he's also come back. It's a weird thing where they're like transporting into dead bodies, basically, which is kind of comic accurate, but just not great overall, I don't think. But I wouldn't check that out. Aubrey Plaza, she's fun in it. She plays the character Death, which I mean, she eats that up. So I thought she was good, but she probably won't be back either, which is tough. And then the other show I want to talk about, which I have been enjoying a lot more, is The Penguin. I believe 5 or 6 episodes deep now. And I really just want to talk, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th episode is the Christine Milioti episode, where it's kind of her backstory. I thought that was immaculate TV. One of my favorite episodes of the year by far. That may be my favorite episode of TV this year. So good. I think she's crazy underrated. I was not even a massive fan for her coming into this series. but everything that is kind of surrounding her character and kind of her performance has just been really, really, really awesome. So I would check that alone just for kind of her story and her performance. And also too, like some of the other supporting cast, kind of plot wise, the Penguin, brings in this kid to his operation as kind of a father figure. I really like their relationship, and his kind of character growth has been good so far. Prediction wise, I'm going to throw it out. I think he's eating it. I think that kid's dying here pretty soon,
sure. I
which
haven't
is
even
sad.
watched it, and he's dead for sure.
But it's been good. So check out the Penguin for sure.
I know you were pissed that they were like tweeting out 4th episode, greatest episode of television of all time. Did it live up to the hype, or?
I mean, I don't think it's up there, but yeah, that still does piss me off. Give me a couple of days to watch it at least before tweeting out stupid stuff like that. But that was the episode I was talking about of the one I really enjoyed.
Gotcha.
So they weren't kind of wrong, but just keep it on the down low, so it's a little bit more surprising,
Last but not least, Survivor, Cody.
Yeah.
You caught up? How you feeling?
It's been okay. I mean, again, it's the whole thing if they want to have twists, which I'm fine with.
One finally did something, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. It was a double. It was like a triple twist this week, which was interesting.
Yeah.
But throwing it back even to the merge episode, I really like that, where you just put 13 people on an island and you say, hey, everybody's available, pick out somebody to vote. Obviously Rome was the boot, which I do like Rome, honestly. He's a really fun character, but it was his time to go. I think that was a long time coming, and just edit wise, you knew that he was going to be either a merge boot or kind of a late blindside before the merge. So I like that episode a lot. And then obviously this next one, they kind of do the split tribes things where they split into sixes, which is again common. They usually do that at 10 left and then have a double vote out. But they did a unique thing where it was only one tribal council, but then also the split was 5 Tukus and then just Rachel on the outside. So it's basically just like they were back in their tribe for an episode, which I thought was really strange. And then I did like the second twist where Rachel just got to leave tribal council and they had to devour each other. It sucks for Tiana because I think she was in a good spot at the merge, but obviously she was not in a good spot in the Tuku tribe, which I think that was evident for a long time. She always was trying to backtrack with Carolyn and just try to get her trust. But I mean, Carolyn's been attached to Sue and Gabe from the beginning. So for her to kind of jump ship at that moment, I think would have been a bad move for her. Just kind of just put her in a tough spot and not somebody she wanted to vote out, or I don't think anybody on Tuco really wanted to vote her out other than maybe Gabe. So I feel for her. Doesn't even make the jury either, which again is pretty devastating. But I mean, a decent episode, fun twists with Soul and stuff, but I would prefer just like, a classic boot again.
Yeah, I like the way Soul played it, kind of, keeping it a secret. We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Tiana was my pick this week for my work Survivor pool, so I did lose, unfortunately, because she got voted out, which is always tough. But
I mean, not a bad pick, like before the episode either. It's just
it's always some bad luck, man. That's Survivor, dude. Jeff, fuck you, dude. Always messing with my game. But I can just enjoy and watch the rest of the season. So
yeah, a little bit less stressful probably watching it for you now of not worrying about the boots. But yeah, it's been an okay season. I think it really should ramp up here because the whole division is interesting with now 4 Tukus. And do they go after somebody in that tribe? I don't really think so anymore. I think Sam and Sierra would be my targets. Andy, I think he's having so much fun right now, just trying to figure out anybody to work with him. And I think him and Genevieve, that's a freaking awesome power couple. Genevieve, I think, is becoming one of my favorite characters of the season. So I'm excited to see where they go.
Barely even in the first episode.
I know, which is really fun. But edit wise, it's always interesting to look at. But yeah, Andy's one of my favorites. I think he might get deeper to the end and then just not get any votes, just because I mean he's a hard guy to vote for at the end, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But he's entertaining. He's kind of similar to Rome for me, where I just enjoy watching him play the game. So it'll be fun to see where it goes for sure.
Excited for the last couple episodes. Jeff, I'm surely has something up his sleeve.
Always, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and Cody, your pick next. What are we doing? Who knows?
Yeah, true. I mean, might have to stay a little bit spooky. I think maybe stay in that season while we're still in the fall here.
But fall. It's just because October is over doesn't mean it's over entirely.
Yeah, true. And there's been a ton of other stuff I've seen on like other Cagetober lists that I've been interested in and kind of looking at. So we'll have to see. But yeah, definitely stay tuned. Stay capping. and we'll be back with some spooky.
Peace.
Thanks.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.